YouTube does not like my computers. Um, I always test the things beforehand and it works. And then tonight, uh, the the microphone has been funny with my desktop, and the laptop it won't YouTube won't let it in for some reason. So I'm using my mobile phone. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. Um, and I hope I can actually see your live chat. I'm just going to try and do something here on my computer just so I can see the live chat. So I hope everyone's well. Everyone is well. Um, okay. I'm not even sure if it's showing people my live chat. Oh, hi Dennis. Hi Dennis. So one person has got in. That's good to know. Hi Wayne. Hi Wayne. If you can hear me, would you let me know? Because I'm using my phone for this. Uh, great, great. Right, I'm just putting my phone to stand up. 'Cause hi, Davey. Great, you can hear me. That's good. That's good. That's good. YouTube seems to try to stress me out every day. I try to do this in new ways. Um, great, Wayne. Great, Wayne. Oh, this is new. I'm using my phone. I'm old-fashioned. I prefer old-fashioned computers to telephones, but here goes. Nice, David. That's two of us with long hair. That's two of us with long hair. Okay, I hope everyone's well. I hope you're not getting rained on. Here, it was miserable this morning, but then we got a little bit of sun, and it's not raining anymore, so that's always good. When there's no rain in Ireland in October, it's good. It's good. So I'll move on with the first question. There's one actually Dennis, who's listening, asked me during the week about the reuse of ancient places. And I told him I was going to answer here because it's something you have to think about. And the more I think about it, the more I thought about it, the more examples I can come up with. Ancient places were reused the whole time. The first example I'd like to talk about is um, in Ballinaskelligs Bay, which I've mentioned before in these chats, which is, you could call it Inverscana, which is where in Gaelic mythology the Gaelic Irish landed. But there are a series of monuments: Ictor Cuair Stone Row, Kilrelig Stone Row, a couple of wedge tombs, and some rocks, and they are all associated with the Milesians, with people who came and died, the Milesians. Um, Ictor Cuair is supposed to be the burial place of Scena, the wife of Mergen, the leader of of the um, um, the leader of the Milesians. Kilrelig Stone Row is supposed to be a place of another one. Carrig Aina, which is right in front of Waterville, is a bunch of rocks. Again, that's supposed to be where Aina, one of the other Milesians, died. Um, in Ballybrack in Kerry, not in Dublin, there's a wedge tomb, a ruined wedge tomb. Again, it's another one. So the Gaelic Irish seem to have given names to all these ancient places and brought them into their mythos, brought them into their belief system. So they knew of and they came across these ancient places and reused them. A much more modern reuse of an ancient place in a different way is in 1600. The first time Mountjoy headed into Ulster, he got through the Moray Pass. He got a bit of a fright in the Moray Pass, and then he wanted to build a fort in Armagh, but he gave up. So he built a fort in where it's now called. He called it Mount Norris. I think it was called Auchagrain in Down. I think it was. It was basically a ring fort, but the English, when they're building there, they called it a Dane fort. So they couldn't contemplate the idea. They refused to see the idea that this was something built by the Gaelic Irish, okay, built 1,000, well, maybe not 1,000, 800 years previously. But they said, no, this was built by the Danes, by the Vikings, in other words. A more modern thing is the idea of fairy forts. So the ring forts, which were, as we've discussed before and I've made videos about, they were homesteads. But at some stage, probably in the early 19th century, possibly 18th century, they became fairy forts. And then if you go around Ireland, the amount of Druid stones, Druid's chairs, these old stone circles, etc. Again, it's the reuse. Now, there are several places which were constantly reused for many, many, many years. One is Ictakua. I mentioned that before. I just mentioned where it was a Bronze Age monument. Then the Gaelic Irish said it was where Skane was buried. And they found that it was used in the Christian period. They're not sure what for, but it was used. But the Gaelic Irish, they had important kingship sites. And you probably know most of these, the names of most of these. Tara, Cashel, Rockrowan, Dunolanya. These were sites that, like, Tara was first used in the Neolithic. They were ancient sites, and there was stuff built on them in the Bronze Age before the Gaelic Irish emerged. But the Gaelic Irish used them, reused them. The best one is Cashel. Cashel was the seat of the kings of Munster. Predating, there's so much built in it, it's hard to know how far back it goes, but it goes back to Bronze Age, if not before. It's a kingship site, an important kingship site. Hi, Kat, nice to see you there. So Cashel is an important kingship site. It's fought over by the Owenacht, the descendants, the ancestors, of the McCarthys, and Dalcash, the ancestors of the O'Briens. These fight over it because they both want to hold the site of the kingship of Munster. And then in the end, one of the O'Briens, I think it was Donegal, he does a fast one. He gives it to the church. So he removes it from being a kingship site. He makes it a religious site. And it's still a religious site. Cormac McCarthy actually built that beautiful chapel within it. So if you ever get a chance to visit Cashel, you have to pay extra to see Cormac's chapel because they control the amount of people go in. If you're going to Cashel, do not miss Cormac's chapel. So you have this magnificent religious site there. Then there's a castle built in it in the 16th century. So if you actually go to Cashel, you can see remnants of the castle, a castle built by the English. It was fought over. It was a battle site. And then it was used for religious services until, I'm not sure, maybe the early 20th century. So it's a very, very ancient site that was reused. The other obvious one is Tara. Tara, as I said, it goes back to the Neolithic. So at the center of Tara is the Mound of the Hostages, which is ancient and which was used, I think, as a burial place for possibly 1,000 years, maybe more. The amount of fragments of bodies, I think it's 300 or 400 people, or fragments from 300 or 400 bodies were found there. Then it was important in the Bronze Age. And the Gaelic Irish used it until the 10th or 11th century. 1022 is the traditional date of the abandonment of Tara. But the name Tara was kept going. It had a very important mystique because it's so connected with kingship in Ireland. It was so important, in fact, Daniel O'Connell held a Munster meeting there. In 1798, there actually was a battle there because the rebels in Kildare were meeting there and the English attacked them. It's Tara, even now, it's called Tara of the Kings. So it's if you look, you can find so many sites like that in Ireland that go back. Davy, you said seen it. Poor guy said a lot of people were killed inside. Said it was 1,000. Yeah, I think, That's Cashel, I presume you're talking about. And actually, the guy was Lord Inchiquin and O'Brien, Mur O'Brien, who fought on the Cromwellian side. He was called Mur of the Burnings because he liked burning people, or at least their houses and stuff. He wasn't a particularly nice guy. He jumped sides a few times, but he was normally he was basically on the English side. So, as I was saying, you have these places, ancient sites, and they keep being reused and reused and reused. And now you could even say that there are people who go to, say, stone circles, etc., for religious purposes, or some sort of secular commemoration. If you go on an equinox or a solstice to any of the big stone circles or even passage tombs, you're going to meet loads and loads of people. Newgrange, for example, it's a tourist site. You could say it's a place of pilgrimage. Like to get inside Newgrange for the winter solstice around it is impossible. It's a lottery. So you could say it's a modern site of pilgrimage. I was in Beara 2 years ago at this time, and I was trying to visit as many of the stone circles that I could. And there's one just outside Castletownbere, which I walked up to discover these art students had turned it into an installation. They had like bits of colored string and rope, and they're putting it all around. I wasn't very impressed, but each to their own. So ancient sites are continually reused. Now, just connected with ancient sites, another question is, and if anyone wants to jump in here, feel free, what Irish site or monument is most underrated? Like there are so many sites, so many places to visit. If you're coming to Ireland in search of old places, you can find them very, very, very easily. Which ones do you think are most underrated? Anyone want to jump in just while I have a sip of my tea? You could say that most of the big ones like Tara, etc., are underrated because there's so much there. And the more they investigate, the more they find. Like in Tara, I think 3 years ago, there's a discovery program. It's an archaeological program that has been going on in Tara for 20 years. And they basically found this big henge. Using LIDAR, the new ground radar, they discovered there are lots of potholes on the hill. And there was a big, huge henge, a wooden henge around it. So they're always there. Dennis, Muckross Abbey, the yew tree is beautiful. Don't think they promote it that much. They don't